Hello guys, welcome back to the Intel Extreme Masters Korean Taiwanese qualifiers for Cologne. And now we have, this is stage 1 obviously, and we're in the round of 16. And our next match is going to be SoulKey versus Cure from Jin Air Green Wings. SoulKey, as you know, a lot of people know about this guy. He finished number 1 in the rankings last season in WCS 2013 and is now looking to advance on to tomorrow so that he can maybe come to Cologne. If SoulKey came to Cologne, just saying, if SoulKey came to Cologne, I would be so happy. So happy. I don't think I've ever met SoulKey. So, yeah. And he's like one of my favorite players. So this will be awesome. This will be very, very cool. Anyway, let's jump into game at number 1. And I basically, everything I just said just cursed him and he's not going to win this series. But now spawning up to the top left-hand corner as our blue Zerg, it is SoulKey. SoulKey. And down to the bottom right, we have Jin Green Wings Cure. All right. So, for any of you who are not familiar with SoulKey and not familiar with recent results, he just manhandled Maru like 2-0 in Pro League. Nothing too special. And yeah, he's pretty much got one of the best CVTs in the world. Kinda difficult for Cure to go up against, but obviously this is Frost. This is cross positions, so anything could happen. Alright. So, excited to see what SoulKey is going to bring out for us. His control is fantastic. Whereas, I must admit, I mean, I think Cure's played in some Pro League games, but I can't quite remember too much of what he's all about. But we just previously saw a ZVT between Mr. Su and, of course, his opponent. But, in the grand scheme, I don't think we'll see too much of a difference in relation to these series. Journey last series played it out pretty nicely. But as I said, we're in the round of 16 now, and this is where things get really heated in these Korean qualifiers. It's weird how the Intel Extreme Masters works because the Korean qualifiers often dictate like who gets really high in the Intel Extreme Masters actual tournament itself, and then the last qualifier we had for Singapore, the winner of that won the whole thing in the form of CJ Hero. So you can quite easily go through one of these qualifiers in Korea and then just almost guarantee yourself a very, very high top finish in Intel Extreme Masters. Because the level, the caliber of player is just so good in these qualifiers. And it can be a treat to watch. But anyway, Cure, with this Reaper opening, gets a little bit unlucky because it is cross spawns. So not the most amazing of openers for him on this map. Of course, you know, getting the Reaper out and having that map presence, that map control to be able to force your opponent from doing anything too crazy is always a nice thing to have. But SoulKey's played against this a million times, as has any Pro Zerg. And should be able to deal with it quite effectively. I mean, he's got speed already on the way. He's got the 2 double queens out. All he needs to do is buy time with his drone micro and some Zerglings, and then he should be fine. As the Reaper now heads in, drone is going to take a little bit of damage. Very, very close to death, but gets saved. He also has a little bit of money for extra drones here. And, ooh, almost loses one, but does not in the end. The Lings will buy the time necessary, as we mentioned before. And noticeably, there is no second Reaper on the way just yet. It's just in production. Wait a minute. No, that was the SCV. Okay. It's just in production. And will come along shortly. But realistically, the second Reaper, all it's actually going to do is just come along and be able to buffer for these Hellions once they move along as well. So how effective this is going to be for Cure is pretty suspect right now. There was a nice move out there though by Cure trying to catch that Overlord. Very, very good foresight to know where that would actually be moving and trying to poke in, but in the end, SoulKey does end up saving that. A few lings at the front here with speed for SoulKey. So once Cure decides to actually move out into the middle of the map with these Hellions and Reapers, he will be spotted extremely, extremely quickly. Of course, the quicker notion would be to have a ling right at the front and then instantly spot it, but you would actually lose that ling unless you're being very, very mindful about its positioning. Whereas these lings on the watchtower can see in good time and then run away. Overlord almost dies once again, but SoulKey's diligently trying to get in there and spot exactly what's going on with his opponent. He doesn't really see too much just yet. As I really like that little wall off there by Cure, actually. Very, very thought out and very planned with the double supply depots, just fully walling that off, and then the command center going down in turn. Did he just lose a ling? Did he put doubt in my... Wait. Yeah, he did. Alright, well. No worries. No worries, as SoulKey for now is getting himself well defensively set up. And did actually deny one creep tumor there, so that was very, very good by Cure. Came in at just the right time to poke that away. And now knows that the third is just finished himself. So, Banshee follow-up here with the cloak. It's going to once again try and wiggle around and find a little bit of a room to put on some pressure. But there's already 5 queens out here for SoulKey, so it's going to be a bit difficult. And yet another creep tumor kill. So good moves by Cure. Well, SoulKey still amasses quite a lot of lings to try and push this away. But all in all, I wouldn't say these Hellions or... Wait a minute. Okay, so he's lost 5 workers. I wouldn't say the Hellions or Reapers have really done what they wanted to. Yes, he got a few, 1 or 2 creep tumors, but aside from that, that's pretty much it. Right now, their presence on the map was denying the transfer of drones over to this third base, so that's something that you have to be very, very careful about as a Zerg here. And this Banshee's done what it needs to do. It's got 6 worker kills. Hellion is just going to come along with this as well. He could push with all of this and try and do quite a bit of damage, but at the same time, SoulKey realizes that he brings all of his queens as well as Zerglings to this frontal location and tries to get a wraparound. If he can, that would be great for him, but that's a lot of Hellions doing a lot of damage to all of those lings. The Banshee's also helping out quite well, but in the end, just too much. SoulKey able to maneuver around that and kill most of it off. Now the Overseer having a look around, and he sees Mech. He sees Mech. Everything gets lifted up. Switcheroo. Alright, so he sees Mech. How are you going to deal with this, SoulKey? He's already got his Spire about to finish. And again, there are some options as a Zerg where you can make Mutalisks work pretty heavily against Mech, but it can be sometimes a little bit scary. So is he just going to get a few Mutalisks here and then transition into something else? Because right now he's heading on a second evolution chamber. He absolutely knows that he needs to get out double upgrades. He's also getting pneumatized carapace as well as the flyer weapons. So the flyer weapons really just signify that he wants to stick to a few more Mutalisks here. No other reason to get it than that. But from here on out, for Cure, it's just going to be straight Thor, Viking, and Hellbat. So it's an extremely strong composition, not gonna lie. But it's very immobile. He's also mixing in a few tanks as well. Very immobile. He's gonna have to somehow wiggle on around this. And SoulKey, he starts the infestation pit. Uh-oh, my worst fears are to be realized. As I think he's gonna go Sword Hosts. Alright. So the Mutalisks not really getting too much done over on this right-hand side. In the grand scheme of things, Cure has killed quite a few workers. 9 have gone down to that Banshee, and overall he's killed 16. But it's 74 still to 60. And SoulKey's gonna basically, with his army, with these Mutalisks, just keep dancing around, keep making sure that his opponent can't really do a whole lot, and then transition on to Involve Enduring Locusts. And we are going to have Swarm Hosts versus Mech. Now, if you watched WCS Challenger last night, we did see this quite a bit. Whoop, hold the phone. Actually, that was a lot of workers killed. Good job, Cure. Good job. 30 workers down in total. Then you may have seen Straylock versus Firecake, where we saw it quite a bit. I expected that series to go on for longer than it did, and I also expected Straylock to win, but Firecake showed some really good games. Actually, the best games I've ever seen of him playing. So, good stuff by Firecake. But now, it's SoulKey's turn. And I think he's on a little bit of a different level compared to Firecake, I'll be honest with you. No offense to Firecake, obviously, but this is SoulKey. So we're going to see how he deals with it. Swarm Host through the middle of the map. Now, for Swarm Host, it's really important that your creep spread is good. And he's not doing too badly through the middle, as you can see. But those Lings really didn't get too much done there either. And also, these small little wall-offs by Cure are so nice. Very, very nice indeed. His 3 base economies fueling him well. His mech army is gathering a lot of momentum very, very quickly without really having too much done to it. And also this Viking and Banshee support that he has along with it as well is going to help out considerably. But now the Swarm Hosts begin their endless torrent of despair, and I suppose I could phrase it like that. Well, he doesn't actually lose anything just there for him. He loses 4 halves of Hellbats, but he could technically repair that if he wanted to. But now this is slowly going to move forward. I was about to say slowly going to move forwards, but he decides to actually pull back because those Banshees and Vikings were getting a little bit close to him, and he didn't really have the ample air defenses that he wanted. Now, I guess it's going to be up to the Mutas here to really shut down those Vikings and Banshees if they stray on a little bit further forwards to deal with those Swarm Hosts. But that's really one of the aspects of mech play that can work against Swarm Hosts, this Banshee Viking support. If you can get those Banshees above the Swarm Hosts, and you can kill off a few with a nice scan, then that can always work in your favor. But this is going to continue on further, and Cure he's been playing against this, no doubt, on Korean Ladder, so he knows to transition onto starports pretty quickly. Of course, you do need to be maxed out, or relatively maxed out, close to maxed out, to do this. But as you can see, once again, just tries to fly forwards, tries to drop the scans and see exactly what's going on, and he knows the Mutalist position, he knows the Swarm Host position, so realizes he can't poke him with those Banshees to get on top of those Swarm Hosts. But at the same time, more and more Vikings are now in production. He's looking to transition over. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Behemoth, the Fusion Core go down pretty soon. Because battle cruisers can work against this. Battle cruisers can. Of course, you always have to be mindful if your opponent with the Infestation Pit then transitions onto Neural Parasite as well as the Pathogen Glands, and then you have to be careful about the Spire already being there and, you know, a massive flood of Corruptors coming out. But for that to happen, SoulKey needs some kind of bank, which right now Cure isn't really giving him too much of. He keeps denying these bases over on the left-hand side with Hellbats. That's quite nice. Hasn't denied this base, as this is the first time it's tried to go up. But SoulKey's just going to try and expand everywhere from this point on, realizing that it's going to be a little bit difficult to really break his opponent anytime soon. But in turn, as you can see, we have more bases on the way for Cure. Now, another option instead of battle cruisers, which is a little bit more bold and ambitious, is of course multiple Ravens, which are already now on the way. 2 of them in production. The 2 bases down the bottom left-hand side here, and whilst SoulKey tries to get other bases going, missile turrets will end up falling as well, just to make sure that this defense isn't really going to hunker down too quickly. And some of the Locusts there traded for a little bit of health on some of those units, so any little bit of damage that they can do, maybe get a tank, like 1 tank, and maybe a bit. It is really good. A good trade there for SoulKey. But at the same time, the Hellbats doing what they do best, walking around and burning things. They have no sense of safety whatsoever. And they're all just going to die. So, whatever. Bye-bye. Okay, still more tanks in production. Still losing a few in the middle. SoulKey is technically supply blocked, but it doesn't really matter too much. Something just fell in the lava. I saw a little splash. That was brilliant. I don't know what it was, but something fell in the lava. And double air upgrades. Again, this is really going to help out when he wants to go into that big air transition against an opponent that's already adding on more air anyway. Tons of Mutalisk still doing some damage here. How many workers has he actually killed? It's 21 to 34. The Bio's still somehow trying to push through to these Swarm Host numbers, and he does see exactly where they are with that scan. One lone Swarm Host tries to unburrow and do something, but alas, it is not to be. The Mutalists have to retreat on out, the Vikings causing them too many problems. And the mech army is actually slowly pushing up towards this location, but the strange thing about all this is... Wait, he's going for Great Aspire. He can't be going for Broodlord, surely. There's going to be a lot of Vikings out. But Mutalisk trying to join their brethren over around the right-hand side and can't get there, sadly, whilst one Hellbat is shutting down this base over on the left. And, well, in the end here, SoulKey gets himself a command center with Mutalisks, and he's going to get a few Vikings. Has to stay away from that Thor, though. He knows that's a little bit of trouble. Actually, he wants to get up to 3-3, of course. So... gets that going as quickly as he possibly can do. But I guess he is going to go over to Broodlords. This is going to be interesting to see how it works out. I mean, Swarm Host Broodlord versus this, like, mech style that is all-encompassing here. Oh, and actually, he doesn't have... He drops a scan. He could get some of these Swarm Hosts. He's going to do it. Nice transfuse, though. Wow, actually, really good control there by SoulKey to bring that back and then retreat them on out. And we do have a lot of the Mutalisks dying as well. 27, though, are still on the field. A lot of them were at the back here, chilling out. But Cure has done a very good job of cleaning up the creep through the middle of the map and then establishing this kind of barricade. But SoulKey is still trading, still throwing out a lot of Mutalisks. He has a great mineral bank, but not so much the gas bank. He really needs to get more gases up and running if he wants to go for this kind of style. Because everything is being shelled away at on this left-hand side. He has to do something. The Mutalisks are eventually going to have 3-3. It's going to take quite a while for that to finish up. But they need to make something happen. Whoa, they wander all the way into those Thors and will actually kill them off pretty fast. The Carapace is very good against Javelin missiles, as long as the Mutalisks are not clumped up. And he's actually going to find the space down to the bottom left. It does have 3 missile turrets, but with +2 weapons, they should be able to trade against those okay. Meanwhile, the mech's still trying to push through the middle. Missile turrets are going to end up falling. It decides to focus down the one that doesn't have any SCVs repairing it at the very end, which is always quite useful. And the Vikings pushing that off. Now, with Cure trading away all of this mech that is trying to bust through, but in the end, I mean, it's not really getting the most amazing of trades here. I'm not quite sure where he intends to go with from there, because he doesn't really have any mineral bank. If he loses all these siege tanks, it's going to be hard for him to replenish in comparison to where we see SoulKey, who isn't really going to need to replenish, because he has, you know, he just keeps trading away 3 units for maybe a tank at a time. And he does get that 1. But at least we see Cure killing off that base up to the north. That does shut down these gas geysers, and that's what SoulKey really needs right now. He really needs gas. But he's just playing his Muta style, almost never engaging, using the Swarm Hosts to buy him time for those Mutalisks to do the damage elsewhere. And when this base dies, there's very little income here now for Cure. This base is really all that remains in terms of income, whereas SoulKey elsewhere has so many bases going. Of course, Cure does have the better income because he's dropped mules and there isn't actually that many drones at the bases elsewhere. 53 drones to 36, but they're all still kind of in these main bases. He sees the Great Aspire. If you could get that before +3 Carapace was to finish, that would be very nice indeed. But the Mutalisks are still running amok. They are still running amok. He really wants to kill that Great Aspire. If he could get that before it would finish, that would be amazing, but he's not going to. So he does finish +3 Carapace. Meanwhile, all of the Mutalisks are just trading away against the mech reinforcements. And still 8 more Mutalisks on the way. How many does he have in total? He has 28 and 16 Swarm Hosts. The Swarm Hosts are slowly being backed up into a corner, though. But, I mean, it's 120 eye armor supplied to 89, and there is literally only this little bit of mining left over for Cure, which is about to run out. He's got 1 FCV mining in the main, but he needs more than that. He absolutely does. It's 30 workers to 56 at this point. Cure's been starved out thanks to the Mutalisks just dancing around, whilst the Swarm Hosts have been biding their time for him. And oh dear me, this is just too much for Cure. Just too much. SoulKey plays a very, I want to say, passive-aggressive style. Never really engaging into that mech army and always dancing around it with the Mutalisks. Can't really call it passive-aggressive since he actually does kill stuff with the Mutas in the end. But never really wants to take the engagement through the middle. And it's worked out for him in spades. Cure now, in game number 1, is very much so on the ropes because he just doesn't have access to any money. And unless he can get the proper and sufficient anti-air set up around this base, which, I mean, that's why his army is situated so close, because he needs to defend this location as well as the northern one. But look how quickly all those Mutalisks kill off that command center. If he stuck around, he could kill that off. I mean, he would take a little bit of damage, but for the greater good, I guess not. I mean, he would lose quite a few Mutalisks, and he doesn't have that much income himself. Oh, well, actually, he does now get that going up to the top right-hand corner. So he should be alright. Swarm Hosts is now going to continually apply the pressure down this bottom path. And there's really not that many siege tanks there. The problem is that without siege tanks and without them being sieged up, the Locusts are always going to close quite a bit of distance and kill off 2 Thors. If those 2 Thors die, oh dear me, that really, really leaves them susceptible to even more damage, because he just has no anti-air. Like, what, 1 Thor and 11 Vikings? Good luck against 700 Mutalisks. Cure's been starved out this game. SoulKey playing it valiantly. And all that's left here in game number 1 is for Cure to tap out. There you go, GG. Game number 1 goes to SoulKey in this best of 3. He's looking to advance on from the round of 16. We'll be getting game number 2 invite from him in just a second. But aside from that, huge thanks for joining me here at ESL TV for the Intel Extreme Masters Korea and Taiwanese qualifiers. We're in full swing now. We have our Korean client, we have everything. I even have the Korean sounds on here, but we don't really hear them too much, so that's a little bit sad. Alright, so let me just tweet out about game number 2. There we go. I was supposed to tweet out at the very beginning of this series, but what can you do? Alright, so game number 2 between SoulKey and Cure. Tomorrow we have stage number 2, which is the Asian finals of the qualifiers, where SOS, Maru, and Jaedong are already seeded into. So if we get people like SoulKey there as well, and mind's blown, it's going to be an amazing tournament. That'll be at the same time tomorrow. I say the same time tomorrow, I mean like an hour and a half before we actually started today because of client problems. So it'll be at 9 a.m. Central European time. So make sure to tune in for that. There's going to be some very, very good games. But now we are loading up onto Yonsu for game number 2, with SoulKey leading 1-0 over Jin Air Greenwing's Cure. And we are in. Awesome. So let's jump right straight on into the action, as we have spawning up to the top right-hand corner, our Blue Zerg, representing himself. I don't know why I pressed the APM thing there. It really threw me off for a second. I was like, wait a minute, I need to switch the scoreboard. It is indeed SoulKey. And spawning down to the bottom left-hand corner, we have Jin Air Greenwing's Cure. And why are you rallied all the way over here, Cure? What are you planning? I don't think he really liked the outcome of the previous one. Oh, okay. So, yeah, he was just rallying it. here for a strange reason. He could have just rallied it to the ramp, I guess, but he wanted to rally it straight over to his opponent's base for some reason. Alright. So, for now, Cure has a really, really tough time ahead of him. It's going to be difficult to go up against SoulKey, considering what he saw in the previous game. But he does have a lot of opportunity here in the next one to try and put on some pressure a little bit earlier. So many SK Telecom players, actually, in this tournament. So many. We had SoulKey, we had an SK Telecom team kill previously. So many of them. But it's great to see that we're able to get all of these players now playing in the qualifiers. We've had it for quite a while, but at the very beginning of PESPA transitioning over, they didn't particularly want to travel too much. Or maybe they were forbidden to, I don't know. But for now, looks like we're just going to have a Reaper opening. It's going to work out a little bit more splendidly on this map as it would have done on the previous, because there was just really no room for him to do anything with that Reaper. By the time it got over to the other side of the map, SoulKey was well prepared. Alright. So that Reaper's going to be on the way in a little bit. And SoulKey manages to take his expansion. He's got his pool as well as gas already coming in. So speed's going to be out pretty quickly here for SoulKey. And realistically, he has a lot of options, but I think what makes SoulKey such a strong player all in all is the fact that he can defend pretty much anything that comes his way in the earlier stages of the game, and the macro ability that this guy exhibits later on is just phenomenal. It doesn't ever slow down. So the Reaper's going to hop on in, and very likely to save that drone. Second one will get saved as well. Just micros them all the way to the back there. Even starts the second Spore Crawler just to be able to save it. Oh, losing a drone. Now, I was not expecting that. A good pickup there from Cure. SoulKey didn't quite react as quickly as he would have liked to with that last drone. And we do have the factory as well as the command center on the way. So, standard as standard can be once again from Cure. What's the Lings? Ooh, dear. That was close. Poor little Reaper almost got caught. But he knows he's pretty fast. He knows he's a speed demon. He knows he is Racer X. So he can just swing on around there and try and get another drone. Did he just get one? He did. You jammy dodger. Alright. Well, 2 drones for a Reaper. Well done. Well done indeed. And there was a second Reaper out as well, but it was hanging out back at home, chilling out with the crew. And the crew consists of Hellions very soon. So it's going to be the good old Hellion and Reaper poke, whilst the Starport also gets added on to eventually transition onto Banshees. Surprise, surprise. And if you are a Terran out there having a bit of a hard time with openers against Zergs, this is your bread and butter. It really is. There's really not a whole lot more that you can do in terms of the most standard go-to build for Terran. And it can work out quite nicely. It's just the harassment potential that's there. It's going to be very difficult, if ever, for a long time, especially on a map like Yonsu, for SoulKey to try and transfer drones over to here, because they are so susceptible to the damage from the Hellions and the Reapers over during this build. So SoulKey has to spend a lot of time breaking down these rocks and then trying to transfer over. But you imagine trying to transfer across all of this direction, and then Hellions and Reapers come in and ruin your day, and then you have to somehow scurry them on back. Difficult times. That's why we did see a lot of Zerg players not really liking this map a whole lot. But interestingly enough, Spore Crawler goes down at the front, as well as in the natural. Sorry, the main. And there we go, there's the one at the natural. I was expecting to see that, but a little bit slower than expected. I guess technically you could have just waddled this one on back and use that in the mineral line once this bench comes along. But it's already en route to the main base. Spore Crawler as well as Queen looking to deal with that. whilst for now, Cure is still just set up to try and poke away at this third, or maybe even the natural, but how many queens do we have? We have 4 out in total, so they should be able to shoo off these Banshees where they need to. Slightly out of range of that Spore Crawler, now just walks into it. And good maneuvers so far. Spreading the creep between these bases, making it a little bit easier to defend against those Banshees. And we have double armory once again for Cure, so mech, mech, mech all the way. And I think more so on this map than on Frost, Swarm Hosts can work even better. Because some of the paths are very narrow. There's not a huge amount of directions that you can take to really traverse across the map as the Terran. But one thing you have to be careful about as the Zerg player, well, aside from saving your drones, which is also quite important, but now these Hellions have caught themselves in between a rock and a hard place. And also the Banshees not doing too badly themselves either. 12 kills so far for Cure. Yeah, one thing that you have to be careful about as the Zerg player, if you're going to try and deal with mech with Swarm Hosts on this map, is the fact that the rush distance and the distance between your bases is a lot shorter. So when you are transitioning onto the Swarm Hosts, you don't want to get hit on some weird timing whilst investing so much into those units and them not even being present during a move out from your opponent. That's a little bit ambitious, though, again, from the Terran side of things. It's very precise timing to try and hit. And Cure, now, just using these Banshees very, very well to try and get some damage done. His 59 workers currently to 51. His third base is under pressure, so he will have to lift up. But he gets another Queen kill. And he's going to get some drones on this left-hand side of this main base. So really, really good control here by Cure. Very, very nicely done. Sad times for that Banshee. Oh, and actually focused down the Banshee that was furthest away from him, that was weaker, just so that he could get up those 2 Banshee kills as opposed to 1. I mean, probably could have got them both anyway, but small things, just making sure that you can get them killed. Alright, well, we now have Thors and Hellbats as the composition again here for Cure. He's bringing back his lone beaten up Banshee. Then SoulKey's grabbing himself that Roach Warren to try and transition on against an opponent, which he knows pretty much what's up to now. He did see the double armory quite a bit ago. 1-1 is completed already. Lynx, I mean, there's too many Hellions and Hellbats there. You can't really do too much against that. So the Roaches are going to be his option for a second to try and hold him steady. Now the Roach Warren, for me in general, is the insurance policy against if your opponent moves out whilst you're trying to transition onto Infestation Pit. Anything other than that's not going to work out too great. I mean, yes, he can try and go for, you know, range and then a big swell of Roaches with Glary Constitution as well to try and bust down a mech army, but realistically, the Swarm Host is always going to be far more cost effective. So committing to any Roaches in this window between the Swarm Hosts coming out isn't really what SoulKey wants to do, but it's just there, just in case. Just in case. Now, interestingly enough, the double evolution chambers are a little bit later than before, so those upgrades aren't really going to kick in as quickly as he would like to see, because SoulKey is going to be going up against a 2-2 mech army that's going to be rolling on out once it really gets churning away. Right now he's at 145 supply. This could hit SoulKey really hard with the lack of upgrades. He's gonna have enough for like 8 or so Swarm Hosts could come out or so. Really needs to start those very soon. But the scan went down. He saw only creep tumors in this area. And now it's going to be up to Lings and Mutalisks to try and buy him time to get these Swarm Hosts out. 8 are now in production, which can hold their own quite considerably against this army. If you look, he only has 4 siege tanks, and siege tanks are really one of the best ways to actually clear up those locusts before they get towards you and do any damage. But this is... if Cure had gone like, I don't know, maybe 10 or 20 seconds earlier, maybe he could have tried to hit this timing of the Swarm Hosts being in production, but it's gone. It was a fleeting moment, and it's happened. It has passed. And now the Swarm hosts are going to be out and about. It's going to be difficult for him to really break on through. He did add on 3 more siege tanks to this composition, though, that are trying to get over there and help this. And they can do quite a bit, especially since they're on a high ground as well. SoulKey does have the vision with his creep still, though. But he is laying waste to this 3rd base. It's going to be difficult for him to really hold on to. Wait a minute, was that the infestation pit? There's no way. I need to go back and check that in a second. But there's 17 roaches in production. I need to look around all these bases very, very quickly before anything happens. I think that was the infestation pit. Why would he have put his infestation pit at the 3rd base? Well, that's Dell's bad news. I mean, there's a lot of roaches on the way, and they really now need to do a lot of work for him. The Swarm hosts also, in turn, trying to kill off what they can. They will end up getting 1 siege tank on the left-hand side. They're also quite unsieged here. Only 4 of them were sieged up in total. Another base going to go down to the bottom right-hand side, but at the same time, Cura's found himself in not too bad a spot. Army supplies right now, 111 to 92. SoulKey is in a bit of trouble here. All of the Swarm hosts have to move out of location. A few of them take a good few volleys from these siege tanks. And it's up to roaches to try and swing in from the right-hand side, but they will die off very quickly. They only have, and there you go, GG. Cure finds a way to even this up 1-1. If he was going to make mech work, it would have been on Yonsu. As I say, he got over there very quickly and really put SoulKey in a very tight bind, especially since the infestation pit went down. But one would argue that he wouldn't have had out any more Swarm hosts in that period of time anyway to really make a big difference. So as I said it before, that the Swarm hosts gained production. Cure had a particular window where he could hit very, very strongly. He had good upgrades again against an opponent that really didn't have too many. Only +1-0, didn't even have Carapace, that didn't even finish during the very last stages of that game. And then hit it. So good on Cure for hitting that timing. And now we go into game number 3, which is going to be on Heavy Rain. GL. So thank you very much to these guys for inviting me once again. SoulKey and Cure 1-1 apiece here at the Intel Extreme Masters Korea and Taiwanese qualifiers. 4 players from this will advance on to tomorrow, where they'll play against the likes of people like SOS, Maru, Jaedong. We have 4 players already qualified from China. And then I'm pretty sure we'll have some Southeast Asian representatives as well that aren't fully updated. But now we can jump into game number 3. Let's go straight into the action as we have spawning up to the north our blue Zerg. He is SoulKey. And down to the south we have our red Terran. It's Cure. Now, once again, a short distance between these 2 bases. So there is the opportunity once again for Cure to hit some kind of timing if he would like to. And in the grand scheme of things, what is SoulKey going to do to try and circumnavigate that kind of possibility? I would be scared after that game as SoulKey. As you can see, this map is like, I would say, like half the size of Frost. So the reason why Frost worked out so well for SoulKey is because it is a very, very big map. I really hope that my little speech of, yay, SoulKey's one of my best players, I hope that really hasn't cursed him, because it certainly could have. Not the best of map draws. But Heavy Rain's not too bad in itself. I don't mind playing on Heavy Rain. I quite like it, both as a Zerg and as a Protoss. I really haven't played much Terran on it. Maybe like 1 or 2 games against my random practice partner buddy, but other than that, not too much. Anyway, SoulKey's heading over there. He's going to grab himself that hatchery first. Once again, I don't really see him deviating too much in the earlier stages of this game. He's just going to get himself that spawning pool as well as gas to be able to react to the Reaper once it comes along, because there's already gas mining here for Cure. That lines up very nicely with that barracks. And interestingly enough, he's positioned this so that you can get that reactor down very, very quickly. So that's going to come along in a second. And SoulKey here is going to be able to spot exactly what's going on at the front of his opponent's base. So no secrets here. SoulKey unlocks them all. And he'll be able to prepare against those Reapers once again. Now, the Reaper in the past game, yes, it only got 2 kills. But getting 2 kills as a Reaper against a player like SoulKey is very, very well done. So I have to commend Cure on that in game number 2, even, I should say. Well, SoulKey's got his work ahead of him against Cure. I'm not too sure what he's going to... I think he's probably going to stick to a similar style to how we've seen him play the past 2 games. This Muta into Swarm Host. With the Roach Insurance policy that, well, it didn't really pay out for him in the end, in game number 2. It was a valiant attempt. And whoa. That was not too bad a try. But he did get 1 worker and gets out unscathed. Of course, he was a little bit scathed, but he's not dead. So that's always good for a Reaper. And we'll go back to heal up where he can. Now, does Cure change it up anything? I don't really think so. I mean, he's got the second gas going down, but it's a little bit slower than I was anticipating, actually. I thought they would have come maybe just a few supply quicker. But he's going to start the starport anyway and try and get those Cloak Banshees out again with the Hellions to follow up these Reapers. So standard as can be from the Terran again. Whilst we have Mr. SoulKey really not deviating either. He'll look to take his 3rd base very soon. Probably over in this location. Down here can be a little bit far out of the way sometimes, and there's a lot of paths where you can assault it from. Now, of course, there's a lot of paths you can assault this base from, but wait a minute, he's getting a layer before his 3rd base. What are you up to, SoulKey? What are you up to? Well, we'll see this unfold in a second. The Lings are going to head around, have a look, see what's going on. And the one nice thing getting the layer at this particular time is that he can actually have an Overseer out, as well as Queens, to just shoo away the Banshees, as opposed to having to commit Spore Crawlers. Of course, this is a... And he does actually see the Cloak being researched as well with that Ling. So now will Cure cancel this? It looks like he's not going to. But it would have been interesting to see if he would or not. As there's plenty of creep being spread out here. He's got all 4 gas geysers going, and the layer's just popped. So he's gonna... What's he gonna go for? There's that very, very quick Spire. 2-base Spire play. This is kind of what I was anticipating. But I wasn't anticipating the addition of Spore Crawlers if he could just have an Overseer out with Queens. Regardless, Reaper hops up, has a look around. Noticeably sees the timing of the layer and a lack of 3rd. Now, we may end up seeing him swing around and checking this 3rd base. As it is a little bit suspect as to why there'd be a layer with that up. And also, I wouldn't be surprised if we started an engineering bay without seeing that Spire. Because you do need anti-air against this. Surprise, surprise. But he's got a Viking coming out. I suppose with an armory, we'll have a Thor out eventually. But does it come out in time to shoo away Mutalisks? He's going to have the ability to create 7 Mutalisks very, very soon. Maybe even 8. But as you can see, I don't like the Spore Crawler edition. I don't think he needed it. I'm being critical. Like, I shouldn't be. It's SoulKey. He's awesome. But, oh well. Hellions are going to dive into this natural, and they all have to run away. The engineering bay gets added on, and, you know, it'll come out in timely fashion, but all of these drones are going to die off. Actually, you know, Cure is in an amazing spot here. Cure is in an absolutely amazing spot. If he just defends against this double hatchery Mutalisk play, I'm not sure what SoulKey's going to have up his sleeve in terms of transitions. I mean, of course it's going to be, he knows that it's like, oh, well, you're probably just going to go into mech again, so I'm just going to try and transition onto Swarm Hosts again. But he just got a lot of worker kills, guys. He got 20 worker kills. It's 26 to 48 right now. I am so sorry to SoulKey fans out there that I have currently cursed SoulKey at the start of this series. But this is not going well for him. Cure right now is in a phenomenal position, and he's even finding overlords up to the north as well. So these Mutalisks are going to have to do work. Work, 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 my friends. They get an extractor. GG. And maybe try and bust down the front. I mean, there's a Thor here as well. He has to run out of the way there with the things so they don't get roasted up completely. And SCVs do come off the line here, so Cure is quite pressured. The one saving grace that's going to go in favor of SoulKey is that his third base will be finished and mining quite a bit faster than we'll see Cure's. But that's about it. He's not mining fully from these gas geysers. His gas income is significantly lower than he would like it to be, thus fueling the infestation pit would be far more difficult from this position than it has been in game number 1 and 2. And, well, adding on an evolution chamber and Roach Warren, this all smells to me like a bit of a desperate move here. I don't know. SoulKey, wait, is that a, okay, no, it's the second one. I was scared it was going to be a third armory again. Like we saw yesterday in WCS. That was weird. But it's just going to be ranged weapons as well as Guerrilla Reconstitution. Now, I can only assume that from this point on, SoulKey with the drone count that he's at across these 3 bases is going to try and go for the infestation pit again after realizing what his opponent's up to. Roaches alone, it's going to be hard to make it work against this kind of mech composition. With Cure now establishing himself that third base pretty easily. It's going to be difficult for these Lings really to do anything. They're going to have to go for a big run by. And will they be able to get it in time? Yes, they will. SoulKey finds an opportunity, but the second wall does raise. Can he get any workers here is the big question. The Mutalisks are still harassing on the left-hand side, so SoulKey's doing a very, very good job of drawing his opponent from left to right, really making it hard for Cure to not only establish that third base fully, but also move out into the middle of the map. And during all of this, SoulKey is getting himself a huge, huge amount of roaches. So, drone's going to head on down to the 4th base. The sensor tower's going to go up again. Cure is going to play this out long. I like the breakdown of the rocks here from SoulKey just to try and prevent any push over to his 4th base as well as 3rd. Taking a little bit more time if he wants to push through that 4th location. He did drop the scan as well and saw that 4th base. So bringing down those rocks is quite wise. But at this point it's tunneling claws as well as burrow. SoulKey. He's going to try and go for some more cerebral and sneaky tactics. But with that sensor tower just finishing up, it does shut down a little bit of that. Obviously, he's going to have to burrow a little bit earlier than he would have liked to, and then just sneak on in. The Mutalisks are going to try and find a route around, but Cure is already well aware of that, and will push it away. Nice poke from SoulKey there as well, just to deny 1 or 2 SCVs, but not too much. Right now the infestation pit's on the way. SoulKey's had to transition to this slower because he felt he was in a more vulnerable position, so got a lot of roaches out. 40 in total to try and keep him defended. And he's going to try and do this burrow on either side. Really, really insightful play. But can it work? The Mutalisks are taking a lot of damage in the middle, but meanwhile he doesn't see this. He doesn't see this. Oh, the missile turret did get a hit off though, with that siege tank even, I should say. But the supply depot during all of this was not raised. So they do get in, they separate themselves up. Meanwhile, they're in the third base as well. In the natural, do get completely roasted up before they can get into the main. How many works is he going to get from this position, though? He gets 30 in total. This is a really, really good trade here from SoulKey. Well, alright, let me rephrase that slightly. It was a great trade to even him back up economically, like, because of the blow that was landed to him earlier on. But now he needs to buy time. If he can't buy time, a straight-up counterattack from Cure could actually kill him. Because that window that we saw prior, where the Swarm Hosts were coming out, is kind of available once again. But the Roaches are doing a great job of buying him some time here. And they're forcing him to drop a lot of scans. He needs to drop yet another one to get his fourth base up and running. The Hive's now on the way, as well as these Swarm Hosts coming out. So SoulKey, despite losing 20 drones early on, he's really doing this. He really is. Cure's now maxed out though. The 12 Swarm Hosts are just about to pop. And that will slowly shut down where Cure wants to be. But compared to game number 1 and game number 2, whilst the Swarm Hosts have been out, we've seen a greater number of Mutalisks be on the field at these moments that have been able to keep Cure back when he's wanted to move out, and kept him from really flying forwards with his economy. Now Cure is maxed. There's really not a whole lot keeping him back. The Roaches are going to have to take on the job of the Mutalisks and do some damage whilst the army is away from home. 4 more Swarm Hosts on the way. Can these guys buy the time? The Swarm Hosts only need push through that one direction. Did I really just say one direction in a cast? I think I did. But anyway, SoulKey here. He's going to lose this base. There's really not a whole lot he can do against that. He just doesn't have the army available to him. The Roaches tried to poke in at this planetary fortress, but alas, didn't get anything done. Double Hellbats up to this top right-hand side as well. And the Locusts just aren't doing the damage. They're not doing what they need to against this maxed-out Terran 2-2 mech army that SoulKey has had very, very little time to prepare for. He's got a base down to the south position going up. And his Roaches did clean the assault on the top right. But now, I mean, he has air dominance. He has positional dominance. SoulKey's going to have a very, very difficult task ahead of him when it comes to breaking out of this. He's up against the ropes. This mech army, once again, sets up the barricade necessary to deal with this. And one Swarm Host will get absolutely manhandled. But even still, the Vikings just flying around in circles, killing off Overlords, killing off Mutalisks. He's heavily supply blocked. He needs so many more Overlords, but he doesn't really have the bank to fully sustain this. All of those Overlords dying, he needs... That wastes like 1,000 minerals worth of this bank. And there you go, Cure advances on over SoulKey. SoulKey is eliminated. I may have cursed SoulKey. I'm so sorry for that, SoulKey fans out there, but Cure advances on. So, let's take a quick look at the brackets and see what's going on. Because we are moving into the quarterfinals now, as... Let's take a quick look. We have Revival versus Reign will determine our first spot for tomorrow. Hero versus Classic will determine a second. Curious versus Trend will determine the fourth. And then we have Cassia versus Cure determining that final one. All right, so I'm going to take a quick break, guys, here at the Intel Extreme Masters Korean and Taiwanese qualifiers. And then when we are back, we'll have another series for you to see who advances on to Stage 2 tomorrow.